to call this meeting to order. I'm Frank Benish, I'm the chairman of the ZBA. We have a quorum, in fact everybody's here, so that's good. The sole purpose of this meeting is a hearing on an appeal of administrative decision, specifically an appeal by Ed Harvey of a notice of not violation on a short-term rental owned or operated at 7 Balsam Drive. He is appealing the selectmen's interpretation of the zoning ordinance, stating that the zoning ordinance specifically says that the maximum number of people in the dwelling unit that can be advertised, skipping lines, shall be 2 people for each bedroom in the town issued building permit plus 2 additional people. And the selectmen's notice of violation state that he is advertising a 3-bedroom rental that sleeps 6, as opposed to what the selectmen would prefer as a 2-bedroom rental, sleeps 6. So the question is very narrowly, are the selectmen misinterpreting the zoning ordinance as Mr. Harvey suggests, or not? So this is a hearing, which means it's not the public meeting. We will be focused entirely on that particular issue. And the structure will be that Mr. Harvey will be able to present an explanation of his view of why the selectmen are wrong, and then other abutters or selectmen or the representatives can also indicate whether if they have a different interpretation of what the basis of that is, or if anybody agrees with Mr. Harvey. So with that, just to get out of the way, there was a public announcement of this in the paper, public on our bulletin boards, e-news, with certified letters going to all the abutters, and all but one of the abutters returned. We have proof of delivery, and the one abutter that we don't have proof of delivery is for Stephen and Leona Hamill of Turnersville, New Jersey. But the letter was sent to the address of record. So unless anybody else, unless I'm going to just ask Mr. Harvey to make a brief statement of why.
Well, I would want to make one statement first. I'm even wondering if we have any jurisdiction to make a decision on this, because I feel I was on the planning board when this all took place, and one that brought it up afterwards, it was two for each bedroom. And then he brought up, well, in case they bring children, so that way 2 couples could come with a couple of kids. So that was the way it was intended. That's not the way it's written. I'd like the planning board to revisit this. I've got a copy here of the building permit and the septic permit, and it definitely states 2 bedrooms. And in the state of New Hampshire, if the town comes up with a rule, or the state comes up with a rule, whichever one is more strict is the one that we go by. So if the state has agreed right here, they've got a 2-bedroom septic approved by the state, I don't see how we can change that.
Well, I think the issue, our jurisdiction is solely the interpretation of the zoning ordinance, and whether or not, as Harvey maintains, the selectmen have misinterpreted the zoning ordinance or not. The basis of how or why the planning board decided to write the ordinance the way they did is not all that probative. I mean, we're required to look at a fairly literal interpretation of the zoning ordinance. So we want to understand the purpose. We have, there's a number of court decisions where we're directed to literally look at what the zoning ordinance says and, decide whether or not the town official who's implementing or enforcing that ordinance is interpreting it correctly. Often when we've had this in the past, it's because some things in the zoning ordinance perhaps were not well defined. And so one could interpret some words one way or another. That we'll discuss that, but if you literally look at the text of the relevant text of the ordinance, it's I don't want to prejudge things, but it is what it is.
But if the state controls, if the state is more stringent.
The state is controlling the septic system.
Mm-hmm.
They're not saying how many people can live in the house, they're just saying 2 bedrooms.
All we're addressing is what the zoning ordinance says that the short-term rental can advertise for, and what must be advertised. And that's really all we're addressing. We aren't addressing the number of bedrooms on the tax card, on the septic plan, on the building permit. We're simply asking the question, is Harvey right that all the zoning ordinance says is that you must advertise the maximum occupancy of the building, or on selectmen right, you must advertise the maximum occupancy of the building, plus indicate the number of bedrooms as on the tax card. And that's the question. And what the plumbing code or what the or any other ordinance says, or any other powers the selectmen may have, or any laws or ordinances about how one advertises, or anything else are kind of irrelevant. Our only jurisdiction is what the is interpreting the zoning ordinance. If somebody claims the town, some town official has made a mistake in how they interpret.
But it's up to the code enforcement officer.
If his loft with 2 beds and I think a bath and a shower or something like that, if that is a violation of the septic permit, then that's for somebody else to enforce. That's not for us to worry about it or even discuss it, because it has nothing to do with what the selectmen have told Mr. Harvey he's got to do as far as advertising is concerned. And if we thought, if somebody thought it was false advertising, well, that might be a violation of some, law, but that's not our problem. That's somebody else's problem.
Whose problem would it be? Whose problem would it be?
I don't know who would try to enforce. Maybe it's the Attorney General. I don't know who tries to enforce.
It starts in the planning board, and when we review what the septic system has been rated for and what people advertise for, that's how it then goes to the select board.
But Mr. Harvey is pointing out, which we've read the ordinance, that the ordinance doesn't say you can only advertise for the number of bedrooms on your septic permit. It says how many people can be there. 2 plus 2 plus.
No,
2.
I understand. I understand.
So that's what we're here to talk about. Here to listen to and try to decide.
But it also says in the ad 2 plus 2 plus 2, and if there's an extra person, there's an extra charge, and there's a futon in the basement.
Well, that's for the, if that's currently what's being advertised, that the selectmen can then address that, or try to address that. All we're here to do is say, is Harvey right that the zoning ordinance only requires the selectmen to ensure that the maximum occupancy is 6? Or can the selectmen require that Harvey advertise occupancy of 6 with 3 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms? 3 bedrooms is what the selectmen want.
I don't see how you can advertise for more bedrooms than there is.
But that's not our issue. I mean, you can question that, but our issue is what the planning board, our issue is basically what the town adopted as a zoning ordinance and what it says.
What it says, exactly.
And, if there's questions of interpretation, if the language is hard to understand, or there are certain terms are not defined and could be defined in different ways, and we've had appeals like that, then we have to kind of figure out what people meant. This case, it's a pretty simple English sentence that says, the maximum number of people that the dwelling unit can be advertised for shall be, then to compute it, 2 people for each bedroom plus 2. It doesn't say that the number of bedrooms has to be advertised.
It says 2 people for a bedroom plus 2.
Yeah, but that's
So that would mean he could take 8 because he's going to be advertising 3 bedrooms.
no.
No,
Look
you can't, because
at
there's
the
no permit for that.
look at the English sentence. Literally, it says the dwelling unit that can be. This is what we're going to be arguing about, of course, all night. But maximum number of people that the dwelling unit can be advertised for in any published listing or other form of marketing shall be X. That's I'm horrible at grammar, but the object. I mean the key part of the sentence is the maximum people that the dwelling unit can be advertised for is X, and then it goes on to say how to compute X.
One of the questions that we have, isn't it something about does harm to any, butter or neighbor or, public?
That's for a variance.
Okay, just down the road, Balsam, there's another place, the
Yeah.
big rock pile there. It's a 2-bedroom house, 2-bedroom septic. They illegally added another bedroom. Their septic system failed. Now, if this one fails, I'd have mine well checked once a year if I was below it.
And that's, I hate to say it, but it's not our problem. Our jurisdiction, all we can say is Harvey or the select board right and how they are interpreting that sentence. And that's the limit of our authority. Whether or not the building inspector can do something else, or there are other things that come into play here that are outside the zoning ordinance, that we have zero jurisdiction. If there are plumbing violations in Harvey's unit, it's not for us to look at, inquire, and decide anything. It's up for the building inspector. If there are fire exit issues, that's for the fire chief. We don't get involved.
But it could still be a public safety issue.
Yes, and we are the people enforcing public safety. It's the fire department.
That's not us. We're not doing that. I mean, we have public safety officers, we have building inspectors, we have, those, if they see violations, they should be pursuing them.
Well, I have discussed it with buildings.
No.
Yeah, what's he think?
He feels it's wrong.
Well, then he should be complaining about the fact that they really have what amounts to, in my mind, 3 bedrooms, and they've got 2-bedroom septic permit.
That's
not us.
That's not us. We have a fairly, in my mind, a fairly simple question to answer once we hear from everybody, is what does the zoning ordinance say using a fairly literal interpretation? Not not that there might be good reason to have other ways to do it. Not that we would like it to say something, not that the planning board would like it to read a certain way. It's what the ordinance put forth by the planning board and adopted by the town says.
But if the planning board is less stringent than the states,
The state doesn't have anything about advertising.
no, it doesn't, but it does.
Well, so that's what we're talking about. So the state says 2-bedroom septic, and there's a way, if the officers in town who are responsible for that sort of thing think that what Mr. Harvey is doing is wrong there because of the number of, call them bedrooms that he has, a loft with 2 beds and a shower and facilities seems to me is like a bedroom, then they should do something about it. They should take action if there's action to be taken.
See, being a plumber, I have to disagree.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, with that anyway. So, I mean, I guess the fundamental point is we have jurisdiction because we are interpreting what the zoning ordinance says. Now, depending on how we act, the planning board may decide they need to take another look at that, and there might be an amendment on the ballot next year. I think they still have time, and we have members of the planning board in the audience. At least one.
Let's roll.
Huh?
Let's roll.
Let's roll, okay. Mr. Harvey, you've probably stated your case, but if you want to add anything more?
Yeah, I'd like to address the plumbing issue.
Well, let's step back. All that's relevant here is,
But I'm hearing that vote.
He can vote how he wants.
So I would just like to, I just want to
Go ahead,
address,
okay. I just
want to
want
address
to just keep on subject if you can.
most of the cases that the select board have gone against with this. In our case, if it was my property with a 2 septic, it would be that we were advertising 3 bedrooms and saying we could take 8. Because we'd be using section 4.4.36 and saying 2 per bedroom plus 2. And if we sneak a bedroom in there, then we get to 8, and that exceeds our septic. We advertise 6. So whether we say we have 12 bedrooms, 3 or 1, only 6 people are coming in here. It's an escape room, pick your choice bedroom. It won't touch the plumbing. There's just 6 people coming in. Personally, we actually only allow 4 adults and 2 kids, so we took the planning board to the nth degree on that. That's how we advertise it. You go to my site, put in 6 adults, and go to VRBO, put in 6 adults. We don't come up. I actually tried after this case because I was punching in fast. My wife's the one that deals with it. And I realized that, oh yeah, I forgot the rule. I have to put 4 and cheat my way back into this because we won't let 6 adults in. We only allow 6 people, 2 kids, as a part of that math. The bedrooms are an irrelevant plumbing issue. That's.
But what's the purpose of advertising 3 bedrooms then?
It's a private space. So the alternative is that you are sleeping on a living room couch. The basement futon is not a thing. I technically have one. We don't advertise it. It's not a space. That's for ski trollers that come over when I'm there. It's all entirely to the 2 septic bedrooms and the loft. That's how we picture everything. That's the sleeping spaces that are designated. We show 2 twin beds. 2 couples wouldn't come over. Again, we don't allow those 2 adults, but you wouldn't think that you're sending 2 adults up there that might think they're sharing a space. We show this as sort of separate, more kid sleeping.
Can I ask you a question? Does advertising what you were as 3 bedrooms, does that give you an easier way for people looking for 6 and want 3 bedrooms to come up? If you advertise,
yeah, exactly. You're not stuck in the living room. Our cabin, our cabin is 24 by 26. It is a luxury camp would be the way to describe it. I mean, you want to talk about advertising. My bedrooms don't have closets. And so we fall out of all kinds of like real estate technicalities on, you know, what we would ideally be throwing out there. It's campish, but it has all of the amenities you'd be looking for. Private space being one of them. You know, when you go up there, that is basically a principal bedroom. You know, it looks like something that like an 80s villain would, you know, lord over the whole grand.
You got 3 bedrooms, that's what I was saying.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Harvey?
No, just that it's specifically 4.4.3.6 that the
Yep.
select board is using and that we're focusing on.
Okay.
And we do not advertise beyond 6 people.
I invited the select board to offer their views. Are you representing them?
I am.
Okay. You have to keep track of who talks.
Yeah.
Mind you.
Well, I'll start by reading the entire sentence in the ordinance. The maximum number of people that the dwelling unit can be advertised for in any published listing or other form of marketing shall be 2 people for each bedroom listed on the town-issued building permit, plus 2 additional people. So that's the entire sentence.
Right.
And on the registration form, condition number 8 talks about the maximum number of people and refers to 2 people for each bedroom listed on the issued building permit or in the absence of a building permit listed on the tax card. The tax card is 2 bedrooms. The septic system is 2 bedrooms. The certificate of occupancy, based on the building permit, and I refer to building permit number 2015-57, is 2 bedrooms. And regardless, and you made good points, Huntley, for sure, that New Hampshire law says that the most restrictive provision applies if there is more than one restrictive provision. In the Harvey family's case, the number of bedrooms is the most restrictive provision. And I understand a strategy, and I understand how search engines on short-term rentals work. And I understand that if you're looking for a 3-bedroom single-family home in the town of Jackson for a short-term rental, and that's what you put into the website, you're not going to get the Harvey home popping up because it has to be labeled with the number of bedrooms that you have septic approval for and certificate of occupancy approval for. And so, is that some sort of interpretation? I don't know that that would have been my words, but we looked at the literal wording in the ordinance, the literal wording to the registration form and the permit application that the Harveys signed. And it's clear that right up until the meeting he came to, he was advertising for 3 bedrooms. And that's where the search engine will take people. He'd already been cited for a violation. We worked with him. We told him that we would not issue a second violation if he conformed his number of bedrooms to the tax card that was based on the septic design by noon the following day. And he did that. You know, for whatever, you know, that reason was in protest until he could appeal the decision here. I totally get that, but we did not issue a second violation because he did that. On a third violation, you're at risk for losing your short-term rental status. So that's why we tried to avoid giving him a second violation in June, July, whenever that was that he came to us. And so we understand, and you're right, Frank, there are alternatives that we have moving forward. We could appeal this decision tonight if it doesn't align with the tax card and doesn't align with his septic approval. We could appeal the decision, which would be your decision. We could also, and we have been given, legal advice that if there's a finding here tonight in favor of the Harveys, if they were to restart up and advertise for more bedrooms than they are permitted for and that show on their tax card, that could be considered grounds to issue a violation and begin imposing fines.
Violation of what?
A violation of him not using his house for more bedrooms, and that gets to the water equation, the water use equation, and everything else. You can't just take a one-bedroom home and start claiming other bedrooms and putting in bathrooms. And so that's a violation that we could end up suspending the occupancy permit. We could start imposing fines of $275
You know,
on day one and $550 for each further day.
Whatever, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, have you had a question?
Yeah, it just, that those things, you feel those things would be done on the basis of this zoning ordinance, right? I mean, that, I think you can do those things, but I don't think it's this.
Yeah, that's what I said, not based on the ordinance, but how he's using his property. We have legal advice and be on solid ground to do that.
So,
What we could
How
do
do you-
based on the ordinance and your decision tonight is appeal to the Superior Court.
well,
And
first
we
you have
made sure
to,
he understood, he had recourse.
Yeah.
This was a recourse, court was a recourse, and constructing a 3-bedroom septic was also recourse that we pointed out to that he had.
may I ask a question of you? Do you have, I mean, looking at that one sentence in the zoning ordinance, how do you argue that it has a requirement or that gives the selectmen an authority to force the advertising of the number of bedrooms? Because as I read it, it seems to only say it lists, you can only advertise, you have a certain occupancy that you must advertise for. It doesn't say anything about the number of bedrooms that you must advertise for. You will have a chance. I mean, is there any legal argument there?
Reading straight across, I mean, we have been told we are on absolute solid ground to focus on bedrooms, for sure.
Okay. I'm sorry, do you have anything else at this point? I'm going to recognize.
Yeah, Scott can give you the historical perspective and some of the thinking around the ordinance and how this, but that, as far as Harvey and the issue before the board, that's what we're going on. I don't really think we're interpreting anything listed on the town issued building permit.
Understand.
Yeah.
Scott, are you representing the planning board here?
Yes.
Okay, you probably have something you'd like to offer?
Yes, I mean, I was part of writing the ordinance, I'm one of the authors of the ordinance. We discussed bedrooms and occupants, and we were, as Huntley mentioned, I think it was Jim, I can't remember, we decided that occupants was a more direct measure of capacity issues. But the other reason is that Airbnb, I'm not speaking to Mr. Harvey's practices, but Airbnb does nothing to restrict the number of bedrooms or occupants that can be put in an advertisement. And so we felt that for health and safety issues that we needed to address that. Our belief was that by basing the calculation of number of occupants on the number of permitted bedrooms, that incorporated both number of occupants and number of bedrooms. And we didn't say that you have to put any number of bedrooms on the advertisement, but we would consider a number of bedrooms advertised that's beyond the permitted amount to be contrary to the ordinance. Because the ordinance is based on the number of bedrooms in that calculation.
But you, in hindsight, you chose not to include that in the ordinance, that you cannot advertise more.
We believe that we didn't need to, that because we were basing the number of occupants on the number of permitted bedrooms, that incorporated the number of bedrooms in terms of what's being advertised.
So if he were to advertise just 6 people, that would be okay.
I don't know what
Does that-
Airbnb's policy is in terms of stating bedrooms.
You have a chance.
But yeah, I mean, the issue is, again, that Airbnb does nothing to restrict what's advertised. I use a lot of short-term rentals, and I really don't pay much attention to number of occupants when I'm looking at prospective rentals. I look at number of bedrooms and decide what number of bedrooms is going to be comfortable for me. Our concern was that if we just say bedrooms, we say 3 bedrooms, and someone might say, well, I can put 10 people in 3 bedrooms, that's fine. I mean, they're all friends, and there are hostels out there that put way more people into a single
Well,
room.
in the case of Jackson, however, they would have to do, I mean, you would have to do 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms. To be within this ordinance, you certainly would have to put down the number of people. You couldn't just say 3 bedrooms, or 2 bedrooms for that matter.
Again, I don't know what the Airbnb policy is, but we felt that, no, we would not say you only have to put down a number of bedrooms. But we decided by putting down a number of occupants, we didn't need to add bedrooms as well, because number of occupants is based on a calculation derived from the number of bedrooms.
Thank you. Are there other abutters or interested parties that wish to speak to this specific issue? I see a man in the back. If you can stand and cite your name and...
Scott Saunders, 12 Balsam Drive.
Thank
I
you,
just
sir.
have a question. It should be easy, probably, for you guys. But maybe, could we define by New Hampshire statute what a bedroom is?
Well, you should probably be directing that question to the planning board.
No, you guys are
No,
going to be voting.
We're not voting on what's a bedroom.
No, yeah, you are.
No.
Yeah, he's deciding whether it's 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms.
No,
That was conversation. We know there's only 2 bedrooms.
Well, we don't know, well, it doesn't really,
You know there's only 2 bedrooms.
we know there's 2 bedrooms on the tax card. We've never seen the inside of this house, but the issue is entirely what the zoning ordinance dictates, what the advertising must be. Whether or not the advertising is false or not, it doesn't matter.
Bedrooms. If we could define bedrooms, it would be easy.
What would be easy?
Whether the advertisement is legitimate or...
No, you're listening.
That's not the question here, whether the advertising is legitimate. If it's false advertising, that's not our purview. I mean, that's something else. Somebody,
He has an ordinance right there.
No, the issue is whether or not the selectmen can force Harvey to advertise the number of bedrooms that are on the tax card. That's the issue.
What is the definition of a bedroom?
It doesn't matter. It matters what's on the tax card.
What's on the tax card?
What's on the septic system.
What is that?
Right?
What is that?
That's what the state defines.
Two bedrooms on the tax card.
How many
Two
is it?
bedrooms on the septic permit.
But the,
Is
but
that
the,
three?
No, two bedrooms.
Oh, it's
the
two.
question we're just dealing with is whether or not the zoning ordinance gives the selectmen the power to force Harvey to advertise the number of bedrooms equal to the tax card. That's the issue. It's not what a bedroom is or how many he has. It's just whether or not whatever he advertises for, if he's advertising for bedrooms, it has to be 2 or something else. I mean,
The issue is, can he advertise sleep 6 and not say he's got 2 bedrooms? Now he says 2 bedrooms and a loft, which makes people happier.
I'm sorry, but there's an ordinance. It says, it's very specific.
Yeah, it says 2 per bedroom plus 2.
but
So
So
that's what he's
that's
advertising.
no, that's not,
Right.
the ordinance says,
2 bedrooms plus.
no, well, no, the ordinance says,
He just read it. I heard it.
Yeah,
You don't
well-
have to say it. He read
no,
it.
but the operative part of the sentence is that he must advertise based on a certain occupancy. What he has to advertise is the occupancy. I believe the ordinance doesn't say
I'm
that,
sorry.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The ordinance is very clear. I'm sorry if you don't get it.
Okay?
Well, it's very clear to you anyhow.
It is very clear.
Right, okay.
And in saying that, I'm not discounting that the town has a very legitimate interest to see that the number of any advertising anywhere, even for houses for sale by realtors, matches what's on the septic plan and the tax card. The question here is whether or not the zoning ordinance actually does that in the case of short-term rentals. And that's what we're struggling with. I'm not disagreeing with you that matching what's on the tax card or the septic plan is a very desirable objective. Unfortunately, we're not a court of law, but we're more of this is more of a quasi-judicial hearing that, what does the zoning ordinance say? That's our job. Anybody else? Go ahead, Scott.
I guess it's not planning board, more personal, but can the ZBA make a decision that, knowing that it may lead to a health issue?
That is,
What health issue?
but you have a chance to rebut, okay? From our perspective, we're looking only at what the town adopted as a zoning ordinance. And fairly literally what it says. In this case, at least in my view, it's fairly straightforward to understand what that English sentence says. There are a lot of other times we've had appeals. It's been, what the zoning ordinance says is much more vague or subject to interpretation. Nothing. I try to think what comes to mind, but well, never mind. So, I mean,
I just thought that usually the ZBA looks at an ordinance and determines that in this case, there will be no harm caused, so we will.
that we
make a
do
variance.
in zoning variances, and almost everything else we do. This is more a first step for somebody if they disagree with how the building code or the zoning ordinance is being interpreted by the relevant town officials. We have purview over those two areas.
This is separate from variances.
Hmm?
It's separate from
Yeah.
variances. This is hearing somebody's administrative decision and trying to decide, was that decided properly based on interpretation, really, pretty much. So that's the question.
Yes, and I'm gonna let, I should be doing is, everybody's had a chance to speak. Mr. Harvey, I'd encourage people to keep things brief and on point, but Mr. Harvey will have a chance to rebut, and anybody else who's spoken will also have a chance to rebut or reply, and it should be in the, next is rebuttal by the petitioner.
Can I ask Bob Thompson?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob, just before we move on to something else, is it the selectman's position that this sentence, which you've read and I've read, that the way it's written, it's telling whoever reads this that you're going to advertise a number of people, that's pretty clear, and that you're also going to advertise the number of bedrooms. Is that the selectman's position? And if you don't, then you haven't followed the ordinance.
That is what seems obvious to us in a read of the ordinance, as well as the other 134 short-term rental applicants who are in this town. We have total 135. Nobody has questioned that. No one has.
And do they all advertise number of bedrooms?
Yeah. Well, you have to on a short-term rental. I mean, it's the first question, and it's the question you want to answer.
Oh, I see. I don't do short-term rentals, so I didn't know that.
Top, upper left, it's right there. It's the very first descriptor of the property.
Okay.
And it's right in the certificate of occupancy. The bedrooms is what defines the occupant load. And Huntley, I'm sure, is a plumber who's familiar with state codes. I mean, the occupancy load is based on the septic.
And I think we all agree on that. I mean, we understand that.
So if you end up allowing somebody to...
Well, but has he answered your question?
Yes,
Okay.
He's saying that the selectmen think that reading this, it says you're going to advertise the number of people. Here's how you calculate that number of people, and it goes without saying in the selectmen's view that, and of course, you've got to advertise the number of bedrooms that you're permitted for.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way the selectmen see it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the way the planning board sees it as well when they crafted the ordinance.
And not so much you have to advertise any number of rooms, but you cannot advertise more than what the permit, which essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
but
Well, it certainly doesn't say that here.
what-
You might say that marketing, shall be 2 people for each bedroom listed in the town, issue building permit plus 2 additional people. You might say, well, that obviously you have to put down the bedrooms, but it certainly doesn't say, that's,
Right, I'm just saying that our position would be that you advertise more bedrooms that are on the permit that are used in the calculation, and that is a violation of the ordinance.
yeah.
We're not saying that you have to advertise bedrooms in any manner, that's an Airbnb policy issue.
But isn't there a form they fill out when they apply for short-term rentals that they have to list the number of bedrooms?
Yeah, they have.
So that's
And it passed. 2023.
2 bedrooms.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
So we
No, I'm
submitted the ad in
talking the
2020.
application you give the town.
My application that I gave to the select board was advertising 3. We've advertised before this ordinance ever came around and tried to control everything. 6 people. Now, we were over 6 people. That's before any of this existed. And then the ordinance passed. I read the math, which is clearly what that section is, and we went to 6. And we passed as a 3-bedroom for 6 in 2020. Select board
You
passed.
don't have a copy of that.
I submitted it.
Yeah, it's in the
The
application.
application. What does the
Yes.
application say?
I don't remember.
Oh, we don't have it.
What's in the big package I sent?
It must have said 2.
Well, the most recent one is 2.
Yeah.
Because I had to change it.
Yeah.
because I didn't want to get fined.
Do you have the application?
Yeah, I'm looking at that, stated June 2nd, 2020.
Yeah, and how many bedrooms does it say?
Number 8 restates the ordinance, basically maximum number of people that the short-term rental property will be advertised for in any published listing or other form of marketing shall be 2 people for each bedroom listed on the town-issued building permit or in the absence of a building permit listed on the tax card. We don't ask people when they come in to define how many bedrooms they have. We don't need to. It's on the tax card.
That's not true. They ask for the ad. They insist on seeing the ad, and we provided it.
Okay.
That's because they needed to know the max number of people.
This is, now that you have the floor, could you have a chance for a brief rebuttal, please?
Okay, a brief rebuttal to the water table, the tax, and everything else I see coming down the line, even if I leave this alone. So the way the engines really work is you tell them how many people you have. Then it kicks into properties that you would search. Same as looking up anything you would want to stay in. And the 3 bedrooms comes in later. You're not searching for 3 bedrooms. There's probably a way to do that. Very simplistic. We don't use Airbnb. The simplistic search that comes right up is just how many people do you have? Because that truly is, from any plumber's perspective, the real water table issue. There is a house that passed that is being built that is a 7-bedroom, 10-bath house coming to Jackson. If everybody hits the bathroom at once, and there are 2 washers, because that sounds like quite the place, and the dishwasher and the sink are going, now you've got an issue. Bedrooms don't create water. People do in the water facilities, kitchen, washer, bathrooms. We max at 6. That's the key. Now, as for people sneaking in or whatever else they could do, you could do this in a small hotel room. You could bring 25 people on a crazy road trip. We have cameras. These are the things you have to deal with, but it has nothing to do with the loft being described as a bedroom or not. It's still just 6 people. That's all you're getting. As for the other violations that I keep hearing in the air, that isn't what we were found in violation of. It is very difficult to come to a hearing to appeal something you weren't found in violation of. I have not heard a specific reference like 4.43.6, and mostly what I also hear being referenced isn't a jurisdiction of anyone here. If it is, then start that one up. But what we're here to discuss is just that this maxes the number of people, and we have done that. And even to the point of what I didn't even know before, we even did what the planning board was thinking in their heads, which was we're only gonna do 2 couples, and you can have a couple of kids with them. I mean, I couldn't be more inside what they were trying to write, except the description of this loft I've never seen. I mean, can you imagine your high school kid going to move into the basement and the town is coming to get you? Basement with egress. And the town is just saying, no way, your high school kid still has to go share with everybody upstairs because I'm going to say a bunch of stuff and not cite one actual ordinance. I'm just going to use one that doesn't apply to that and then get you in front of everybody.
Does anybody else have any further rebuttal?
I just have one thing. It's after talking to the inspector, apparently when the house was being built, the loft was brought up, and it was brought up saying it probably possibly would be an office.
I'm sorry, what?
That's a lie.
Well,
That's a
I was
lie.
just told that by the inspector.
That's a lie.
That really.
We changed the
If it's relevant to what we're discussing here.
Okay.
I didn't even hear what you said, so.
This is what goes on outside of here.
Okay, look, I'm gonna ask people to kind of stay focused on what our issue is, and, you know, what else goes on is not part of this hearing.
Can I at least point out that voting members have had pretty deep discussions about areas way outside of this that they are trying to relate to this? I mean, it's...
I hear you, and
This is the same building inspector that found us in violation of not having a window that we have always had. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years now.
Okay, Mr. Harvey, I hear you. Okay, that then concludes the testimony. So, next step is I get to try to summarize what's here, which I think is actually fairly simple. We have to decide whether the zoning ordinance allows the selectmen, gives the selectmen the power to dictate the number, advertising for the number of bedrooms or not. And, everything, all the, most of the court decisions I've seen and what is in this book and what I've heard in seminars is that we have to follow a fairly literal interpretation of the language in the zoning ordinance. And we should be wary of incorporating what we think the authors, in this case the planning board, thought they were doing with the zoning ordinance or meant to be doing, but all that matters is what a person in the, would say reading this and what the town thought when they voted on it.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Harvey, before we move on to that? The town has not cited you, so you have no violation for this, right? That's what Bob Thompson said.
Well, he has a June.
Let me finish. Is that what you understand, or do you think you have a violation?
No, I had to change it, so there was a violation. I wouldn't have a permit right now if I left it.
Dude, what did Bob Thompson just say?
Bob said if I don't change it, the night of the meeting, he said if you don't change this by tomorrow, come sunset, $275.
Okay, but that didn't happen, did it?
Because I changed
Well,
it.
yes, you did. You put in loft as opposed to bedroom.
No,
Are you suggesting I challenged the 275? I don't have that.
No, did they charge you 270?
No, because I changed it.
Fine,
I
okay, so
conceded.
you put in loft instead of bedroom.
Yeah, it says office, and it gets into a farther down description, it gets really goofy.
Okay, well, in any event.
Yeah,
One of the
pictures
things you
are
were
still there,
concerned
it's also-
about was this going on your record as a violation, wasn't it? I mean, you said in your,
it is. It is, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, this is
well,
watching the
if
law.
they didn't give you a violation,
It-
or are you saying, they
That-
gave
that
me a
would have been the
violation, they didn't
second.
give me a fine?
That the fine would have represented the second violation. The same thing can be 1, 2, 3 violations. If you don't change it, you just keep getting violations.
How many violations do you have?
Now, 1,
One.
this one,
Okay. No, you had one before.
no.
No.
Oh, the egress that they got rid of because they were wrong? Yeah, that got raised. They changed the record.
So that wasn't a violation.
It originally was, and then they expunged the record because I proved I had a window.
Does this?
I didn't come here to do it, I just embarrassed them.
Does this violation show up on your record now, or you have no violation?
I have to be honest with you, I don't really know, because
Well,
I had an
yeah.
original, like, he wouldn't know. The town administrator might. I had an original violation. You might see it in some of the correspondences, but I don't live in Massachusetts. I'm not that other property, but Ed Harvey 7 Balsam was listed there, and it held out for 2 years. And then I was told I had a second violation, that being the egress problem that came up. And I said, all right, I got to address this by tomorrow. We got this egress thing going on, but what are you talking about? It turned out that I had someone else's violation in my file. So I genuinely have no idea where I stand.
Well, let me just ask you this question. If this was not a violation on your record, if you have no violations, then would you be happy?
No, I am trying to appropriately describe my property, which for the purposes of a family, what we get most, grandparents, parents, 2 kids, Storyland, the loft is truly private space, separate bath and everything. Your kids are not in the living room with you late nights, sleeping on the couch that you're trying to sit on.
So you
And
like
they
to
don't ruin your
continue,
bathroom.
you like to be able to continue to advertise as a bedroom.
I would,
You like to continue to advertise 3 bedrooms.
yes.
Okay, fine, that answers my question.
But what if you advertise 2 bedrooms plus a loft sleeping space? You're not calling it a bedroom,
Okay, well,
but it affects.
okay, well, let's remember, our issue here is whether to say yes or no to Harvey's appeal. And by the way, the appeal stays the select board's action.
Right.
So even if this was a violation, it would be on hold, pending our decision.
Well, well,
So-
we can talk.
But again, you know, whether or not he doing it in the loft is not the issue really. It's we have to answer his question or his appeal. Is he right or the select board right?
Yeah, yeah. I
So it's really kind of yes or no.
Yeah, okay.
And let me say I'm sympathetic to, as I said earlier, that I don't like the idea that the number of bedrooms on an ad like this doesn't match up with the septic system.
I don't either.
But
That's
That's
not
not
our
ours.
problem.
I agree.
It's not our concern.
And if we do, if we decide affirmatively to support the appeal, I also think that our decision has to make it clear that this is confined only to the zoning ordinance, and it has no impact, or we have no purview over what other powers the select board may have. This has nothing to do, this says nothing about what should or should not be on the tax card, the septic system, or whether or not Harvey's complying with their advertising laws, anything else. It's
Well,
just,
when you write the decision, you'll be.
I'll do that.
I'll in there.
I'll do that. But, so this is really very narrowly confined to Harvey, and
It's very narrowly confined
Yeah.
to what does the sentence
Yeah.
say. And select board has said, we think it's very clear that that's what it says. And Mr. Harvey is saying it says 6 people and then tells you how to calculate, or not 6 people, tells you the number of people to be advertised and then tells you how to calculate that, not that. And you have to, and you can't advertise more bedrooms than you got.
yeah, and you know, it's to me, the English construction is fairly straightforward. You know, it's basically the occupancy must be X, and X in this case is this formula.
This is all semantics.
Pardon?
This is all semantics.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
This is what you signed up for, Jim. So, you know, I mean, I don't know, and you know, I also find it interesting that it doesn't. I mean, one could argue there's no limit on. There's nothing that says you even have to advertise for the number of bedrooms. It does say you must advertise the occupancy. It doesn't.
And so you have to calculate the occupancy.
It does, but it doesn't say you must advertise the number of bedrooms. I don't see that anyplace.
It doesn't say you can't advertise them.
It doesn't say anything.
And if you advertise more bedrooms than you had, that would be false advertising.
Maybe.
But that doesn't have anything to do with it.
So I don't, it's kind of obvious where I'm at on this. But should we have more discussion or should we just vote? I'll leave it to you guys.
I don't think there's anything more to discuss.
Okay,
I mean, all the points have been brought out.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I would, let's see what happens. I would move that we affirm Harvey's appeal, that the select board are misinterpreting the zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance only gives them the power to advertise, to require advertising for the occupancy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I guess I'm gonna have to go with the select board. I mean, I think it's all in wording. It
Yeah,
says
I am
2
too.
bedrooms to me, and
Okay, so let's have, shall we, are you then voting no?
right.
Yeah,
And are you voting no? Okay, so the vote is 2 for and 2 against. In this case, by law, we need an affirmative vote of 3 individuals to take any action. So Mr. Harvey's appeal fails. He has the opportunity to, within 30 days, to move for a rehearing, saying, with some explanation of why we misinterpreted the law.
How many days was that?
I think 30, I can, if that's wrong, I'll let you know. But you would need you can't bring in, it's not an opportunity to bring in new facts. It's simply an argument of why this is a misinterpretation.
Can I point to anything that occurred here tonight?
In regard to what? I mean, occurred here tonight.
Things that were stated, things that were not true?
No, I
Well,
think,
they had nothing to do with this appeal.
It had to do with the vote. Yes, it did. It came in voting that way. There's at least 1 vote here. I only get 4, not 5. And 1 came in already having discussed outside measures with the building inspector and came in voting. Tell me now that that doesn't fly and I won't appeal.
you're welcome, well, we will then see your motion for rehearing and then decide whether or not to accept it. And either we accept it or we don't, and then if you are still unhappy, if we don't accept it, then I believe your recourse is to the Superior Court.
And just so you know, I have voted against what the building inspector, what we've discussed in the past. But
Yes.
every time there's a
Yes, you
case,
have.
every time there's a case, so I feel I have to go to the building inspector to find out what's going on.
Maybe,
And
You were given false
So
information. So I'm
I have
not
to be
blaming you.
informed.
I do appreciate that. I was on the zoning board in Durham and you do have to figure this stuff out and the building inspector should be where you go. That building inspector found us in violation of not having a window and then lied about that office comment.
Well,
It was,
you did, beside the point, you did mention an office right at the end here. Something about your ad in office.
that's what the site immediately describes and then you get text. That's not the same thing.
I think the meeting's over. Shall we, I move that we adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay. We're adjourned. And thank you all. Thank you for being here.
You know, this ordinance could be fixed with a snap.
Simple question, just when I was
And you'll be in the same position that you
So noted.
maybe there's pre-existing conditions and the fact that we've been doing this long before this came along. Is the building inspector typically at these? No. Okay. Curious. They always were in Durham.
No, typically it's just the applicant will get
He stuck down on the select.
and what's unusual here is select board here, they were asked to.
if you're advertising for 3 bedrooms,
I thought they already had
if
this.
the person is looking for 3 bedrooms, whenever you say that
Over
they're
here, but,
going to interpret it differently. Yeah, I know. So I think they're on target for me.
Unfortunately, that was it.
I could really use that fifth.
I think
It is what it says. It is.